Hey guys, it's Kusi. Since the launch of Season 3 is less than 2 days away, talking from EU here at the time of upload, I thought I'd quickly sit down and note my thoughts about the season in general, both from a personal perspective as well as a, well, wannabe professional one, I guess, when I was recording for you. So calm down, not a zero to hero yet, but I'm working on that one and you will love it. And hey, if you're super excited, hit the like button so YouTube knows what's up right now. But let me first start off by addressing the title I chose for the video, because as you know, I don't do major clickbaiting. That is my general feel and belief. Season 2 of especially Mythic Plus in the War Within was incredibly bad for me. Not saying it wasn't successful, because I think the numbers of participation were pretty solid for a second season, but I will explain to you what I mean in a second. Yet let me ask you right away, how do you feel about Season 2 in general, compared to maybe Season 1 or even previous seasons in Dragonflight? I'm curious to know. Now, the biggest, as well as the most highlighted problem I had with Season 2 is that it's too easy. Way too easy. Let me explain. When Blizzard decided to push down the weekly key level cap for the vault from 20 to 10 at the end of Dragonflight, they also heavily increased the difficulty every level brings, and I personally thought that was awesome. Simply because you had so many levels between 2 and 20 just completely dead, which led to all of us just sitting in queue forever, and with the changes in Season 1, you could feel whenever you entered a new level with some extra scaling, like for the Fighter Tyrannical. It hit hard. But that of course became too difficult for the people. Too much going on. Too many interrupts required, too many tank busters, too much party damage to heal through. The problem of Season 1 wasn't the scaling or the abilities you had to deal with. The problem was that dumb idea to make only kick interrupt things, instead of stuff like AoE stun, in caps, fear, you name it. Only interrupts were available to trigger the spell cooldown. Because you took away the ability from better players to carry weaker ones by playing better. That ultimately made using AoE crowd control in pucks pretty much useless, so people either just spam it or just don't use it, as you didn't really need to keep them for anything major anymore. But they wanted to make up for that little bit of a problem by bringing us an affix that also empowers us when being played correctly. Cool. Now, what the hell does all of that have to do with my issue about Season 2? Well, I'm glad you asked. You see, because Blizzard changed so many things in the Mythic Plus system that was totally working in Dragonflight in my opinion, they completely overpaced with everything again. What I mean by that is, they overpaced with the scaling. Not only did they nerf every key level by an absolute unholy amount, to a degree where a plus 12 key in Season 2 was roughly the same scaling as an 8 or 9 in Season 1, they also mixed up the pace in which scaling affixes appear. Because people been bitching so much during Season 1, you only get your first tiny increase in difficulty at the plus 7 level with either Fortified or Tyrannical kicking in. Other than that, the timer is the only affix that needs to be played, which is kinda dumb. Because I'm gonna be honest, if a timer is stressing you out already, there are different problems at play. Not even to mention the placement of Salatot's bargain to plus 4 and above instead of right away. That is the only mechanic that needs to be played in the entire season. So why not bring it out right away so people can start to learn it? Anyway, I digress. So not only did they hyper nerf the dungeons, they also kept the season affix in, with pretty much the same perks. You know, the affix that was supposed to help us with the difficult dungeons, or the difficult situations, or the difficult heal checks, or the difficult damage profiles. Now the dungeons are weak and we still get buffed. Then they also heavily reduced potential tank busters by trash mobs, which was technically not necessary because they already got nerfed like crazy. This entire thing left me struggling with the plus 14 in Season 1 to just zooming through a 16 in the pre-patch week with a tank that never tanked 12s before because he was too scared and he barely took any damage. It was just too much nerfing. Overpacing at its finest. Then you add the absolute ridiculous fact that plus 6 keys, which don't have any scaling attached to them and are technically only 40% more difficult than Mythic 0, now drop hero gear. The second best item track we have, and mind you, the best items you technically can farm in Mythic Plus. And get this, you get the same items on the plus 6 with no affixes as you get in the 15. Why is that? Why is that item level rewarded for pretty much doing nothing? Imagine they just hand out heroic loot items on the last 2 bosses on normal. Because why not? That's way too much. Hell, I'd say even the plus 11 delve is more difficult than the plus 6 key. Now, why is all of that bad, you might ask? Why is free gear, fast gearing and easy progress bad? I tell you why. because it breeds bad players. The truth is that if you could, you jump into +6 keys right away, because everything below that is kinda useless anyways. The only people that do keys lower than that are people that either are new to the game and slowly want to upgrade, or people who want to push their own keys. And that's why they have to play it. Tanks don't even bother to join that key level, especially if they play it as an alt. If they did the dungeon already, they start on 6. So what's the result of this? The result is that newer players, or mechanically worse players, just get free passes for the entire time until they hit the brick wall, which is usually a +10 key. Because all of a sudden, you might want to play mechanics, or even worse, the affix. But what mechanics? There were no mechanics in +6 or +9 last week because everything died so fast. Also, what's an affix? Because lower keys are absolutely not punishing, they also don't teach anything. What I mean by that is, if you get hit by something that would one-shot you later on lower keys you lose, what, 80% of your HP while thinking, oh wow, that hurts. Instead of getting your ass sent to Narnia thinking, oh, I should avoid that next time. And that's just the example for DPS. Tanks don't need to use any defensives in lower keys, because why should they? Slow pulling, one pack at a time, easily gets the job done in lower key levels. So why pull more and stress yourself with using defenses? And then they get to a key level where they just get 2-tapped. And then we have healers. Let's be honest, healers just get constantly shafted. And again, honestly, I don't know how they would change that. But the experience in low keys as a healer is so much more different than compared to proper key levels. On lower keys, you are only busy healing up mistakes of your party. You can't really get a feel for when party damage is coming, because once a pull starts, the damage comes in 24/7. And here's why. Because DPS don't feel the need to push stuff like kick, use defenses, or just in general try to avoid damage, because they don't die, the enemies also just simply do more damage to you, which the healer needs to take care of. If the tank doesn't use defenses, because why should he? He didn't have to use it before, and he gets his nuts kicked in, the healer has to take care of that. And trust me, you do not want to heal a warrior without shield block or a vengeance demon hunter without spikes. What I'm trying to say is, because the climb, or the progress in general, is so easy and barely requires any kind of adjustment or learning to go through, other than being a healer, the higher keys suffer, which then ultimately means that you, very often, get people in your weekly +10 keys that have legit no clue what's going on. I had a hunter in a priory, I don't know, 9 or 10, on my holy paladin at the end of the season who never hit the affix once. Not once. 0 damage done to the mirror of Saladin. How can this be a thing? And that made me upset, because I'ma say something a lot of you won't like. If you got into a higher key level completely unprepared to just YOLO it, you are on the same level of griefing as that dude who leaves after the first wipe. There, I said it. The guy who thinks before the pull, I'ma leave instantly when stuff goes wrong, is not even a little bit worse than the dude that says, no clue what happens, I'ma just let them do the work. And that's annoying. It's annoying that the only actual affix is the player gaming IQ or knowledge. And here's why that's annoying. It's annoying because instead of blaming the game for unlucky affixes or ridiculous timing, you can only blame the players. You cannot get screwed by affixes, only by players. And that created a way more toxic environment compared to any other season beforehand. There's no bad RNG anymore, only bad decision making. Or no decisions making at all. Another reason why Season 2 was pretty crap in my opinion is the fact that Blizzard artificially raised the average rating by making keys so much easier, which climaxed with this dumbass 3k rating achievement nobody asked for. Nobody. Another controversial statement from a guy who played both seasons non-stop, getting all 8 portals in Season 1 was a lot more difficult than getting 3k in this season. So Season 1, 2600 rating, was so much more difficult than 3k now. And you cannot prove me otherwise. Because the scaling for sure was a lot more in Season 1. But of course, Blizzard wanted to bless their little snowflake gamers with some mad 3k achievement, just like the big boys, right? And I hate it, man. Not because I don't want people to feel more impactful, but because those artificially created achievements, they are just the same lies as Santa Claus. They're just not good at all. But Chrissy, if you don't want to play with worth players, then play higher keys. Yeah, well, that's the problem. I don't want to. You wanna know why? Because I think they're f***ing boring. That's why. If there's no reward attached to it, and it's the same key, just more scaling, it's boring to me. In Season 1, at least you had some mad extra scaling on +12 keys that kicked you in the nuts. And you absolutely felt the difference between 11 and 12. Now you don't. In fact, now I'd like to believe that a plus 12 key is a lot more chill than a plus 10 key, because there is legit nothing happening. It's like a plus 2 key, there's only the timer. So not even the tiniest bit of I'm a Flame Blizzard for that shit affix is available anymore, and it happened to be only player diff from now on. Imagine you do Queen Ansurek on Heroic, right? And once you manage to get in her a Mythic, it's just the normal difficulty mechanics, but with Mythic scaling. That's boring. That's exactly what higher keys are. Just 24/7 of missionary position, and for me, that's absolutely not exciting at all. I don't know about you. Why can't we have more mechanics after 12? Imagine that, the dungeon evolves. Why can't we have mid items drop on plus 15 and above? Why not just give people who constantly do higher keys and potentially want to do even higher keys, just the loot that they need? Just rewarding the top 1% players for doing the 1% content. Why not give them the loot? I don't get it. Just give me a reason to play this. Another thing that made the season extra boring was the crafting. It's just copy paste. You just take the very same items you already had crafted from last season, slapped some season 2 improvement sticker on them, and that was that. That's fucking boring. Why can't you make interactive embellishments with the current season or something? That is not, oh, just put attention on it, it's roughly 1% damage increase. You remember when the fire damage dealing embellishments interacted with the rings from the raid of the Vault of Incarnate? That was a neat idea. It wasn't giga impactful, but it was kind of fun. Or the Spore Cloak in, what was it, season 2 or 3, that was super useful to have when starting out in Dragonflight. Great! But Kusi, crafting is good, because now you can have all the items you want if you don't get lucky. Yeah, that's the problem. Do you remember the last time you were actually excited about the Vault? Because I don't. Well, wait, I do. It was before the War Within. The only items you're looking for are tier sets in the beginning of this season, which is fair, and you could argue that the first, 2-3 weeks are kinda exciting to potentially get that tier set. But most importantly, you just look for them broken trinkets, because everything else you can just craft. And why bother upgrading an item with crests if you can just get a maxed out item with 60 crests instead? There's no point in doing that. Why would you spend 45 crests on your hero item if you can just go for 60 and just get a mythic item value? It's just overpacing. I don't think there should be basic ass items for every damn slot. They should change. New raids, new dungeons, new recipes. You know what? Make it an RPG. How about that? Surprise me, Blizzard. With the new expansion cycle, you yoink over $200/euro from every player over the course of 18 months. And you have millions of those. I'm sure you can provide something more desirable, cause it annoys the shit out of me if I see this dumbass sitting in an interview saying, oh, we're already working on patch 17.0. Bro, work on the next patch, how about that? Stop giving us patches that are 4 weeks of beta testing. How about you finish them first, huh? With the super weird adjustment you did to keys beyond plus 12 not being affected by affix, you could just do so much more fun. Regular events. Like, you know what? Other games have. Final Fantasy has them. Even New World, which is dead for 2 years now, even has upcoming events every month or two. And they enhance the game. There's new stuff happening because of that. There's new drops happening, event drops happening. It's not just copy-paste. Just as an idea, regular events that potentially influence the Mythic Plus season for some extra affix. Or I don't know, something else happening. Because the world keeps turning. Hidden boss rooms that, similar to Delves, happen randomly and allow players to get some extra stuff, because why not? Why not? It's supposed to be fun. And plus 10 keys are not necessarily the end or be all of everything. Why does everything have to be the same? If you are worried about your, great push, MDI, whatever it's called, you don't play those keys anyways. So why can't you just have, the other 95% of the population of WoW have more fun? I don't get it. Because guess what? I know those wanks on Twitter shout the loudest, but most of us play this game for fun, not for loot. And I bet you that those shitheads who just sit on social media and just ask for everything and demand everything, they don't even play the game anymore. A lot of us don't need to min-max every move. Because if you do only plus 10s or plus 12s, you don't need to min-max. You just have to be there and not die. So if you completely shut down everything after plus 12, make keys below that at least a bit more fun, please. Please, I beg you. Now, I'm sorry that this turned into such a rant. So let me rewind a second here and tell you why all of that annoys me and what's the reason I had less fun than usual. It's because 0 to hero. No, not the serious type I do. but the gameplay. I love, and I mean love, taking new characters, learning them and getting better, to the point that I can get the best rewards in the game while being a functional and useful part of the group. That is why I started making videos of that. Because I just did the same thing, I just didn't record them earlier. Before creating a YouTube channel, this is exactly what I did. And it annoys me, because there's no journey anymore. No experience. No stuff that seems to be exciting. It was super fun to me recording weird shit that maybe was just something like bolstering or bursting, screwing over the entire party. It was hilarious. But now I can just skip the key range of 2 to 5 and 7 to 9, while only doing 6s for hero items and 10s for vaults. You don't believe me? Well, let me introduce you to Definitely Not Vlad. A man who streams a lot of WoW, hammers out videos like no other, and pretty much had a 0 to hero character every week. Because in 4 streams, he levels the character, does the basic gearing, and then just speedruns to 10 in what, 15 keys. GG, go next. And yes, he's an above average player, no doubt, but when I was able to tank plus 10 keys with ease on a 640 item level prot warrior without tier set or any tank trinkets, and mind you, I'm not really a good player, I figured out that it's not difficult. Okay, now this is me, Kusi the creator, speaking when I say, if I want more content, I'd forcefully have to either do low keys and hope I get new players, invite only super undergeared people in hopes that they are completely bad, or just absolutely, personally, grief the shit out of the key so I can crack some jokes about that. And that seems sad. Now, before this goes even more into a rant than it already was, let me say this. I am very aware that my position and my liking of the game, which is the preferred way of spending time in lower keys up to 10, is very niche. Not many share the same hobby as I, playing new characters every now and then trying to get good with them. But I sincerely hope that this shitty trend of we listen to the crybabies that don't even play the game anymore will not hold for too long. Because if you keep breeding people to be bad at the game and still get rewarded with the best stuff, then you lose even more tanks and healers, because they don't want to deal with that. Also, if you didn't realize, if you give in once, you have to keep giving in, because once crybabies have what they want, they just want more. You know how many people were upset that the Dina just didn't give you instantly mythic tier items? That was crazy. With that being said, here's hoping that Season 3 will be a bit better, at least for my personal liking. But I feel like with the surrender voting, we go into a very bad direction of the game, as well as the environment of Mythic Plus itself. And the last thing I want is some solo queue bullshit. Do not get that into the game, for the love of God. Anyways, first 0 to hero episode coming either Friday or Monday, so stay tuned for that. Peace.